Hello, this is Henry Nacino, and for the next maybe 25-30 minutes, I am going to talk about Google Cloud Platform and specifically identity and access management and the organization or org node. And this is a topic that a lot of the customers I work with, which are typically the large enterprise accounts, are very interested in kind of how do I manage my GCP projects under kind of centralized management and hierarchical management versus standalone siloed GCP projects. So just a few slides before I kind of get into the product and kind of show the various aspects of IAM and organization node. So a couple of things in terms of some basics of IAM. The whole idea around it is to be able to identify who, and the who can be a person or it could be a program, and what authorization does that person or program have to, so what can they do? Meaning, can it access storage? Can it access a database? Can it create a VM instance? Can the person or the thing create a firewall rule? Can it create or update a network? All those things are kind of what can it do? And the resources are kind of what I just mentioned. It could be cloud storage, could be virtual machines, could be firewall rules, could be networks, a whole host of GCP resources. But that's the basics of what IAM and IAM policies is all about. So if we take this one step further, a couple of concepts. So on the far left, we're really talking about the identity of the who. And again, the who is usually a human or it can be a program. And the human is identified by a user account that can be either a Google consumer account or it can be a G Suite account. And what I'm going to focus on today is again focused on the enterprise customers that I deal with, where they're typically not going to want end users to create their own accounts, but they want it managed by kind of our directory managers. So we're going to really focus on using the Google Admin Console and the cloud directory that supports for G Suite as well as Google Cloud Platform. Then as I mentioned earlier, there's also Google accounts can also be individual consumer accounts, and within Google accounts is also the idea of creating groups. So you can assign the groups to specific policies instead of individual users. And as I mentioned earlier, there's also the concepts of service accounts. So not only is it as a human identity, but it can also be an identity of code running, a program, or a VM that's running, something that needs access to GCP resources. In the middle, again, is kind of what can you do, what are you authorized to do? Again, it could be, read, update, delete, create new, modify something that already exists. And then the resources are those GCP resources that I mentioned earlier. And a couple other things is what we provide with identity and access management inside GCP is a set of roles. And these roles encapsulate a list of permissions that a specific role would typically want to do. So instead of you having to define a user and say a user needs these 25 permissions to create a VM and create a disk, instead of going through the 25 different permissions, we've created these roles, which encapsulates, for example, an instance admin role. And then over here on the right, we have an identity, or again, typically it's going to be a person or a user account, and we associate that identity to a instance admin role, and that's all within inside a single project. So, up to this point, we've talked about identity, authorization, policies, and resources, and all of that resides in a single project. So one of the things we've gotten a lot of feedback is that there's certain people in an organization that need access to all the projects. So we have network admins, we have security admins, we have system admins who want to be able to modify, view all of the GCP resources across multiple projects. So with that, we've came out with something called organization node that gives us the ability to create hierarchical permissions. So what we see here is a view of kind of this resource hierarchy. So down here at the bottom, we see individual resources. So an instance being a virtual machine, a queue, part of App Engine, a bucket, part of cloud storage, a topic, part of PubSub, and so on. So those are the resources, and then in the middle, and these resources all live inside of a project. So in this case, we have 3 projects: example dev, example test, and example prod. And they have all different resources, could have some of the same resources, and some of them have different resources underneath a specific project. Then at the top, we have this umbrella that encapsulates all of the projects inside this organization, and the organization in this case being example.com, where we can set roles at the organization level. So actually we can set roles both at the organization level as well as the project level. So if you set a role at the project level, the policy inheritance flows down from the project down to the resources. If you set a role or assign a user to a role at the organization level, then that user has that role or is assigned that role across all of the projects inside that organization. So again, the example of a network admin who wants to be able to modify network settings in all the projects, not just not just a single project. So we can go ahead and create a or assign a network admin role at the organization level that gives the ability for that particular user to do that across all of the projects. Before I go any further, let me just kind of pop in and show you a little bit more. So I mentioned here that there's roles that you can assign both at the organization level and at the project level. Then there's some roles that are only at the organization level that don't really have any kind of applicability at the project level. So as an example, let's take a look at some of these roles. So organization admin, it's at the organization level only. So you can see the resource type is organization. Project creator is another good example. We give someone the ability to create a project at the organization level. And then if we look down further, you can see that many of these other roles exist both at the organization level and at the project level. So, we can take any one of these, or BigQuery, or compute instance admin as another example, which I'll be showing quite a bit. So compute instance admin gives the ability to create, modify, delete virtual machine instances, and this is both at the org level and at the project level. Okay, so the next thing I want to show is the admin console. So I mentioned that within G Suite, there's the admin console, which manages and helps you provision your user accounts. And the user accounts are going to be provisioned here in the admin console, but these user accounts would work across the Google Suite of apps, Docs, Sheets, and as well as the Google Cloud Platform tools that we're going to spend most of the time with. So within here, we could have, within this specific admin console, I have an account set up, and within this account, there's a domain. In my case, I've created a domain called hnacino.info as my organization name, and within this organization name, I have a set of users that I've already created. So here we can see my list of users, Hank, James, Christy, Bob, and Alice. And at this point, there's nothing else I've done kind of on the G Suite admin console side of things. I really want to just kind of create these users so that I can create my organization node inside of the Google Cloud Platform console. So just to see who I'm logged in as right now, I'm logged in as Hank Nacino, and Hank Nacino happens to be the admin, the super admin. So it has an admin role assigned to this particular account, Hank Nacino. And then what I'm going to do is pop in over here to GCP, and you can see the same user account, hank.nacino at hnacino.info is the user I'm logged in into the Google Cloud Platform console. All right, let's go back into the slides. So another example before I get back into going through the product and showing some more examples. If I look at this example, where at the organization level, I have a user named Bob, and Bob is a network admin or has been assigned a network admin role at the organization level. So that gives Bob the ability to create networks in Project 1 and in Project 2 because he's been assigned this role at the organization level. Then I might have another user, Alice, who's only assigned the instance admin role only for Project 2. So if Alice wants to create instances, the only place she can do that is inside Project 2. So if we look here on the right side, so if Bob wants to create a new network in any of the projects, could be Project 1 or Project 2, he'll be able to do that successfully. So in this case, let's say it's Project 1, he can create a new network. Project 2 can create a new network. Now let's look at Alice's permissions. So Alice is trying to create a new VM instance. And in this first example, let's say she's doing that in Project 2, instance B. So she can successfully do that. But if she tries to create a new network inside of any of these projects, because she only has instance admin rights and not network admin rights, she is unable to do that. Likewise, because she only has instance admin rights in Project 2, she could not create an instance in Project 1. So let's take a view of some examples as well. And so this is kind of a chart of the different users that I've set up, and we'll go through some various examples. So like I mentioned before, Hank is my org admin for this. The org that I've created is hnacino.info, and Hank has project creator rights and has billing manager rights. We have James, who can create a project and can create instances and create disks. We have Christy, who can create projects but nothing else. And we have Robert, can't create projects but is a network admin and a security admin. So a couple things we want to note here is once you've created a project, you are automatically the project owner, and it basically gives you all rights inside that project. So even though I haven't said, James, James in this case has given instance admin and disk admin, because he's the project owner, he actually has those. He actually has those rights to do that without me explicitly giving him those instance admin or disk admin rights. And then we look at project level. So the example I showed on the previous slide where we had the network admin, Robert, had org level rights for network admin, and I also gave for security admin. And then we have Alice, who can just create instances with disks at a specific project, in this case, Project 1. So let's take a look at these. So let's take a look at Hank first. And again, the other thing I'll note here before we do that is like org admin is a role that's applicable at the org level, but it's not applicable at the project level, as well as project creator. You give person project creator role at the organization level and not at the project level. But these other roles both exist, can be associated at the organization level or at a specific project level. So let's take a look at Hank. So Hank right now is in a specific org, hnacino.info, and specifically in a specific project. So if I actually look at this project and go to IAM admin, so one thing I'll notice is Hank is the owner. So Hank again had project creator rights. So as a project creator, once you create that project, then you are the project owner, and essentially gives you all rights to do anything you want to inside that project. So the other thing I want to note here is that because I am the owner, because I am the org admin, that I can view the IAM permissions for this project, or any of the other projects inside this organization, because I'm the organization admin. Okay. And as the organization admin, I am the only person in this example, because I'm the only org admin, who can view the IAM permissions at the org level instead of the specific project level. And to do that, what I need to do is deselect the project. And now we're looking at permissions for the organization versus looking at permissions at a project level. So again, here you can see the various users that I had created and the permissions that each one of those has at the organization level. And you can notice here that Alice does not exist here because Alice only had specific project level rights to create instances with disks. But everyone else had rights at the organization level. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is let me log in as James. And let me go in and log out. And remember, if we look here at James, James has the ability to create a project, and he's also instance admin, which again, it's kind of redundant in this case because once James, well, in the project he creates, he has all these rights: instance admin, network admin, security admin, disk admin. But because he's also been granted these rights at the org level, he can also go into any project, even the ones he did not create, and have the instance admin rights as well as the disk admin rights in projects that he did not create under this organization. So let's take a look at James. So now I'm logged in as James, and now we can see that James, we can go into James's project. And because James, again, is, in this case, if we go back to the project level IAM and admin, you'll see that James is the owner of this project. And as you would expect, he could go into this project and create instances. I'm not going to go ahead and do it, but you can see that the UI is all enabled for James, but also because James was given those roles in projects where he's not the project owner. So if I go to project 1 as an example, and if I go to project 1, and he only has instance admin, so if we try to go to IAM an admin for project 1, we won't be allowed because I don't have any rights at any other projects except instance admin. So now what I can do, if I go to instance admin, I can see existing instances and I can create new instances. So let me go back to James's project, and we are going to take a look at IAM an admin. So again, here we can see that James is the only person who has specific rights in this project. Anyone else who's accessing this project has to be able to is accessing this project through organization level rights. So let me do one other thing here with the org admin account. So notice if I go in and let me sign back out and sign back in with the org admin account. And because I'm the org admin, I can go to any of these projects and notice if I try to go in Even though I'm the org admin, if I try to go to the compute engine, I don't have permissions to do that. But because I am the org admin, I can go to the IAM and admin permissions of this project, and I can simply add myself. As a compute engine instance admin. And once I've done that, if I go ahead and go into compute engine, and then I'll have to refresh the page, you'll see that I will have access rights to create instances now inside of this project as the org admin. So kind of bottom of the line there is the org admin here didn't have any rights in James's project, but because I'm the org admin, I can add myself to add any role inside this project to myself. So in this case, I gave myself instance admin at the project level to myself, Hank. Okay. So again, I could come right in here and successfully create an instance in this project now as the org admin. So the next thing I want to do is let me go a little bit more. So now I'm still logged in as the org admin, and there was one other thing I wanted to bring up. So if I go back at the organization level, and let me go to billing. So this particular org admin was also a billing manager, and I believe I actually created him, gave this person the ability to create billing accounts. So this billing account is linked to this billing account was created in this organization by this particular user, the org admin. So given that this user has billing manager rights at the organization level, this person can go into any of the projects and assign any of those projects to this billing account. Okay? And that's because I've given this Hank the billing manager organization level role. So you could go into any project and associate those projects to the billing accounts, that exist inside this organization. So let's go and do that for one of the projects. So there is one project that was created by Christy 2, that doesn't have a billing account associated with it. And so if I go into billing, it's going to basically prompt me and list the billing accounts that are available inside this organization. And because I am the org admin, I get this prompt. If I would logged in as another user, it would not allow me to go ahead and associate this particular project to this specific billing account. Okay, so now let's go ahead and look at Christy. So yeah, that's really the only thing I was going to show with Christy. So she basically she created two projects. One project where there was a billing account already associated, and then the second project was where the billing account wasn't associated, and that's what I just showed you. Then I also previously showed you that James could create an instance in someone else's project through this org level instance admin role. So the next thing I want to drop down into is the example I mentioned earlier, where Robert is a network admin and a security admin, and Alice only has instance admin and disk admin rights inside of a specific project. So let's go in and log in as Robert. Okay, we're logged in as Robert, and let's go to project 1. And we're in project 1, and what we want to be able to do, again, because he has the network and security admin rights, if I go into networking, again, we're logged in as Robert, I can create a network, and I can create firewall, and because I'm a security admin, I can create or update firewall rules. So we can go in here, edit. Again, I'm not going to go ahead and do these, but you can see that the UI is allowing me to go in here. And any of these components here on the left-hand side, because I'm a network admin and a security admin, I have the ability to update. And because it's at the org level, I can actually do this for any of the projects. So I could go into Christie and create a firewall rule, or I can create a new network. Okay. And then, kind of opposite to that, if I go and log in as Alice, and remember Alice's rights, so Alice only has project 1 rights, and specifically the ability to create a VM with disks attached to it. So here we go into project 1, and you see there are a couple instances already there. Again, I'll show you that I can go ahead and create an instance, and I can also go ahead and create disks. But where Robert could create networks and firewall rules, if I try to go over there and notice that create network is not allowed, and if I go into firewall rules, I don't even have permissions to view them. All right, I think some of these other ones, or I think I was in networks a second ago. But yeah, so you can see that those are disabled for this user, and this user only allowed to do certain rights inside this project. Now let me try to, again, one of the things that's not allowed is if you go back here, Alice didn't have any other rights in any other projects. So you will notice that you don't even see the organization level, because this particular user only has project level rights or project level roles associated to her. So you don't see the organization node up here at the left side. It's just the project that the user has access to. Okay. So that was a quick walkthrough of IAM, Identity and Access Management, the roles that can be applied at the org level. Some of those same roles can be applied at the project level, and some of the roles are only at the organization level, like org admin and project creator. We also went through how policy inheritance occurs. So James has no permissions at any specific project, but can create instances with disks in any of the projects inside of this particular organization, agency.info. And then at the end, we saw a network admin who could update the network across any of the projects and firewall rules, whereas Alice can only have access to create instances with this in a specific project. Okay, that concludes this talk today. Feel free to comment on the posted video. Until next time, thank you.